God damn it.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. And the truth shall set you free.
Oh, I brought brushes so you could see the paint. You know what I do all my paintings. See, I got these. This is what I used to do.
Hey, Molly.
Oh, there's Molly. There's speak of the devil, the demon, mostly the demon. Yes. See, so these are like I just have these.
Yeah.
Are those clear?
Yeah, I can see pretty good.
Yeah. So I start out with the big ones, obviously, and then I can scrub with this. These are really tight, hard bristles.
Yeah.
These are flexier, and then I whittle it down to details. You know, I got the detail brushes, and then like a nice toothbrush. I use this. I just used it, so it's good. This one, basically, I use toothbrushes to flood the space, you know, and it kind of works. I just jump right into telling you how I paint, right? It's weird.
Well, like, no, that's good.
I
That's
just
a good way
I got them right in front of me. I'm like staring at my brushes here. I'm like, oh, I got props, you know.
Well,
book.
Let me do a little intro.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll do a little intro, and then we'll just, whatever.
Right.
Hey, everybody. Molly. Everybody, welcome to a very new version of Face the Truth. Welcome to my Patreon, my first Patreon podcast. And this is going to be really cool because unlike my other podcasts, this is going to be something geared more around talking about the art, like showing art, showing examples, talking about it, and going to be more visual than the normal podcast, which I think a lot of my artist fans will appreciate. And so I'm very excited to have for my very first guest for this, my good friend Fred Harper. Fred is been a good friend of mine for a long time, and he's an artist that I have a lot of respect for. He's really amazing with basically every medium, everything he basically uses every single medium that's out there, and he's also done almost every kind of genre of art. I mean, everything you can think of, basically, Fred has done. And he's also a really cool guy. So
I
everyone
even iced a cake once.
I won't even doubt that. Everyone, please welcome Fred Harper.
Hey, man. Good to meet everyone. You don't say anything if you like me. I can't hear him. Yeah. No, it's an interesting. I'm assuming there's going to be people watching, and I obviously don't see anybody. Are you doing? I don't know if we're doing this live, right?
No, we're not
live.
doing
Okay. Okay. So.
No, but here's the thing. So basically, as the Patreon grows, people that even if someone joins 2 weeks from now, they can still watch it. So there's going to be a backlog for everybody. So eventually millions of people will see it.
Millions. Yes.
Yes.
Millions. Yes.
Yeah. That's the goal anyways.
Yeah. It's good to start out with 1 million.
Yeah.
I'd say, just for starters. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't know, like this is like maybe a year ago. I told my wife, my God, look, this artist is making like 100,000 or something like that a month, some crazy amount on Patreon.
Right. Yeah.
Or someone was making 25 grand a month.
And you've never heard of them.
Never heard of them. And then
why can't I be that nobody with 1 million?
And then I looked at their art and it was okay. And I'm just like, what's happening here? And she's like, you got to start one of those. And like, so she's been after me. And then finally I'm like, okay, fine. I'll
Right.
start one. But I want to keep mine simple with just because some of these people are like, they're doing paintings for people and all this. It's like, oh my God, like I
Jeez.
can't
Yeah.
do.
I tried it on Twitch. I was going to do that, and I was like, I can't figure out the cameras. I've gone around to all my friends are experts, or so they say, and then everything I've done has failed, and I'm pretty sure it's mostly me. But like, I don't doubt my friends' credentials, but like nothing. Like they're all you need is one little more gadget, just have it. How about you just need this one little $50 gadget? And I'm like, okay, another $50. I've spent thousands now at this point of $50 gadgets. And like, I'm like, I should have just built a new computer or invented Bitcoin or something, so yeah.
I know, man. We always have to hustle, man. There's always got to be something. Yeah. Let's say it's either this or like prostituting or something, man.
Right. Which that sounds relaxing at this point, maybe.
Less stressful.
Less stressful.
Yeah.
I don't have to think so much, just lay back and hold still. Yeah. That's I don't I don't know. Yeah, I can think of a lot of bad things to say really quick. But yeah, so I didn't know if you wanted to start with any like actual pieces that I sent you, or
well, I thought it'd be cool. I have a couple of the folders ready.
Oh, cool.
But let's start with the gouache stuff that you sent me, and we'll go through and talk about those.
Sure.
So I don't know what the order is going to be, because I think it depends on the name of the file. So I can flip through if there's a specific
that one's
one.
a start. Yeah, that's like I was doing a fairy series. Started out with it's gouache, but I did a pencil drawing. Then I bladed in the colors loosely with watery gouache. And then I did ink over that, and then I did a little bit more gouache, like speckling, I with the toothbrush at the top. And so, yeah, I had, I was trying to find the finish on this one, because I eventually started evolving into the Girls with Horns, like group of paintings I was doing. And I wanted to turn this one into a Girls with Horns, so I really went in there with a lot of gouache and just gouged it out. But I couldn't find that finished painting to send you for.
Oh, so this is like the first phase.
This is just the first drop.
So when you do the what kind of ink are you using, by the way?
Use the Dr. Martin matte flat ink.
So that's not a waterproof ink. So if you went over it again with water,
no, it is. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's a waterproof.
Okay.
Yeah, Doc Martin has like, for my I went through like about 20 different inks, and everybody gets the Higgins. It's the most. It's easy. It's cheap. It's right there in every store. But like, I found this Dr. Martin stuff that was like matte.
Yeah, isn't it acrylic based as well? Now that
they have the high carb has lacquer in it. The matte doesn't, from what I understand, so it's not as shiny.
Yeah,
and it gives you a nice finish, and it doesn't ruin your brushes as quickly. I ink with a brush.
I think of you ink with a brush. Okay.
Yeah.
Because like, now that I think about it, that's the stuff that I use, is the Dr. Martin. I haven't done inking for a while, but now I'm thinking about that is the stuff that I was using, because Mort Drucker mentioned it once in something I heard. And he said it was acrylic based, and that you can do like washes and it stays, because like you said, that Higgins stuff, that stuff will just wash away when you try to do something.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's as good quality, stuff in it. So because you can get like different inks will like reactive, like it depends. Like the matte doesn't have the lacquer in it, so it doesn't ruin your brushes fast. but the other stuff is a little shinier, and but it gives you this dark black, which I always liked about. I used it for comic books,
Okay. I just remembered I'm wrong. It's actually FW ink. That's what I
Yeah, that's
use.
a good one too. Yeah.
That's the acrylic stuff.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of experience with that one, but yeah, I stayed away from the acrylic because since I ink with like red sable brushes, just chew them up too quickly. You have to.
That's interesting that you do it with the brushes, because I would always do it with like actual pen and ink, like the pen.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I mean, it depends on what effect I want. Like I feel like a pen will give me nice, longer, straighter lines. Like I used the pen mostly in the image you're showing now. That's a dip pen, but some of the swirls in the wings of that is my brush. I used my watercolor brush, which is a red sable brush, and it's amazing how it's an example of why mass like Amazon and stuff like that is bad for us, is because they go with the cheap best thing that you can get. You get less quality things, and so I don't know if you have Blix in Chicago. There like Blix, it used to be Utrecht, and Utrecht was like the cheapest paint, and then Grumbacher was also the cheap stuff, and then as they're getting bought up by all the larger conglomerates that are like, oh, we don't care so much about the quality and all that stuff, we can make shittier materials and still charge for them. They're cheap, but they're shitty, I got more my inks have disappeared. I can't find the Doc Martin matte as easily. I can't find the red sable brushes anymore that I
even
used
at
to
the
use.
Dick Blix, they don't have.
Yeah, they have a version of it, but it's not. It isn't as good as it was the Raphaels. I don't know if you ever saw you use the Raphael brushes. There was this Raphaels. I think they were 2024s or something. That was my go-to red, brush. And then I found them again, but the quality is horrible now. And they don't hold together as long. I don't know if they're growing the animals wrong. I don't know. I mean, it's bad for the animals, obviously. But yeah, I mean, that was it gives me the best line, and then the same with the paper. I used to use Strathmore paper, and that's, Strathmore got bought by Grumbacher, who I already didn't use because I didn't like their materials. I didn't think they were that good quality. And but now that Grumbacher owns Strathmore, they've turned it into Grumbacher 2, so it's I hate Strathmore now.
Yeah, I've been hearing that they're I haven't, whenever I use watercolor or gouache, I I either do it I have a watercolor Moleskine sketchbook that's really nice to paint in. It's actually really good.
Another one. Moleskine got less quality over the years.
It did?
Yeah, it's it's still pretty good, but their watercolor paper is pretty good, but their sketch pad paper changed when they decided they were going to go, I want to
Jackie brought me some coffee. She's the best.
Yeah, that's see, podcasting and coffee that, it doesn't get better than that. And so the what is it, I was talking about the Strathmore, or was I talking about, I don't know.
Moleskine.
Moleskine, yeah. So I was I finally got to the point in my career where I'm I'm going to spend $20 on a good sketch pad, right? And then Moleskine was we want to make money now. So they started they went from the tiny sketchbook that they had to releasing bigger sketch pads,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so they couldn't
Hmm.
produce the paper at the same quality as their first stuff, and
That's
so
crazy because I
they,
have two huge moleskin sketchbooks. I mean, I've had them for years. I haven't bought a new one in a while, but the one I've done acrylic paintings in it, and it's awesome, just like playing around with acrylics. And the other one,
yeah.
as a watercolor, it's really great quality. I've done like some really fun stuff in it. Um,
Yeah,
like
well, I
my
just
favorite is
noticed.
Arches though, like, and that
Yeah, I
seems
like
it seems
Arches,
similar.
and Arches is still good. And I use, what's the other one? Lately it's been the Canson stuff.
Mm,
Their paper is really good, and or at least it has been. I haven't bought it in a while. I haven't been doing as much like physical media the last couple of years, but
it's so annoying when they change things like that. It's so frustrating.
yeah, because they don't tell you,
Yeah.
because I was buying Strathmore paper. I would get the it was like 500 series, like 4-ply Bristol. It was 4 and 5-ply Bristol, and it was like kit finished, wonderful. I could do these beautiful washes over it, and it was like unblemished, on big sheets of it, and it was wonderful. But then once Groundbacher took over, they didn't like have the same quality screens, and then when you do a wash, it would just absorb into the paper, and
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just wasted $500 on a pack of Strathmore paper that is toilet paper. Basically, it was just so it made me have to spend so much more time to get the results I wanted, like the transition from dark to light, or from one color to the next. I could do it in a wash previously that would take me seconds, and then now it was like I have to mix all that color and then blend it and put it in there, and I had to like mix the lights and the middle tones and the darks and put them down, and then like manage, and then I'd have to blend them together, which would take me an hour. It made my process take even longer to get the results I wanted.
Yeah, it's
So
very frustrating.
yeah, and it wasn't as good. It just wasn't as good. And I was like, I recently found some of the old Strathmore that I used to use while I was going through some old work from the 90s, and it was like, I'm like, oh, I can just flip this. It's such good strong paper. I could just flip it and use the backside of something I did a painting on the other side, if I wanted to. And I'm like, I'm so tempted, because I'm like, well, I'm not going to do anything with these other these old spot illustrations that I did, but I'm really tempted to just start mining that old Strathmore that I already have, so
Yeah.
it won't take up any space either. So oh yeah, that's my I did a watercolor, like I laid in some watercolor and then I scanned it over a pencil rough for a painting that I wanted to do. And this is my color study as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I took a photo of the model for that one that I was working from. And so I loosely drew it in really quick and was trying to figure out what kind of color scheme I was going to use. And so yeah, that's what was going on in that one. And then I don't know if you have the next one's probably I tried to, that's the finish, which turned into an oil painting. That I had drawn it out, and then I scanned the drawing into the computer to try the color out, and then I'm like, oh, this is, because like I wanted to keep the colors simple, because I wanted the little feathers on her back to pop out, because that was going to be the part that's had the gushiest paint. And but then I also like putting backgrounds in, and I had uh, I was experimenting with patterns and stuff because I used to use them more in college. I was really into patterns, and then I'm like, why don't I do that more? And so I found some things that I could use as patterns, and I like the industrial looking patterns, and then playing with that. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
I like that, the thick blue paint in the upper right corner.
yeah.
That's
I just like gushy paint, you know.
Yeah,
it's
that's really cool. Like,
uh
and is that
the-
like a pair of lips there for just above the building?
no, it's just like how it scanned.
It almost looks like
yeah.
lips there. Like,
Yeah, I see. I as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, it does. Yeah, that looks like lips. I no, because it's a thick paint, you know, and then I scanned it, so it's kind of hard to figure out how it's gonna, you know, with the highlights on the thick paint are gonna come out. And yeah, that was one of my early. I was just starting to do the girls with horns around this time. So I was playing around with a few of the elements that I like to play around with regularly in my paintings. And, you know, I usually like to have a nude. And then I also like to have like these flat patterns to paint something that's more three-dimensional, you know, like I'll render it more in the paint or with color, and then push that up against something that's flat that you know is supposed to be flat, like the street sign. And you know, this, like, oh, that's a street sign. Street signs are flat. That's exactly what it looks like. You know, you can do, if you're painting something, a painting of something that's flat, that is everybody knows is flat. It's like your eye and your brain both go, hey, yeah, that's correct. And then hopefully that there's a little residual ness of that believability that comes to the parts where you paint more three-dimensional, you know, like where you start rendering it and going, oh, I'm trying to create volume here. So I like to go back and forth with like something really flat and then something with volume, and that, you know, and try to create that kind of pattern and rhythm through a painting. And so I feel like it'll really enhance the three-dimensional illusion that you can get, you know, by putting something that is already a no-brainer, like a flat thing. So
yeah.
yeah, I haven't really quite figured out how to put all my words together where they make sense about this, but
No, it makes sense.
That's the gist of it.
Oh, is this like
that's
the first sketch?
Yeah, the first
Okay.
drawing.
I like that.
Yeah,
So, you know what's cool. So this is okay. So we kind of they're kind of backwards. Okay. This is pretty cool though, because like each one of these is a cool piece of art just on its own. Like I really like, there's something about this that looks really, you know, it's almost, it has like it almost reminds me of like a storyboard or something.
Right. Yeah.
There's like a movement to it. Oop. And then this, like, dude, like that would be a great t-shirt. You know what I mean? There's something really like graphic about it that looks really cool. I love that style. And then like
that's the
playing
black
with it
and
a little
white
bit
that
more.
I used to do. Yeah. See, like, and then play around with it.
But what's strange is none of them make you think about this. Like this is a completely different, you know, place that you went with it.
Yeah, that's what
Pretty
made
cool.
doing commercial illustration was always hard for me for that reason, because like I'll do a sketch and I go, oh, I like this. And then as I'm painting the next version of it or trying to refine it, my brain is still going, how can we make this cooler? You know, like what else can I do to this? And so I end up like, I keep fucking with it. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, that doesn't look anything like the sketch you sent me, you know?
Yeah.
And so
it's a very big difference.
and then what made this one worse is I lost my all my photo reference like got erased on my phone, and I didn't have any hard copies. So I hadn't really like settled in to do a nice tight rendering of the image from the photo, so I didn't have real specific details on this for this pose, and it just got more stylized as I got to the finish. And
yeah, oh, that's interesting.
that this one is a model that this girl models for me pretty regularly, and she doesn't model for anybody else, which is weird. It's just weird that like I met her at a bar, and she's like, "Oh, I'll model for you." I'm like, "Really? Okay." And she came over and modeled, and she had never modeled for anybody else, and she's like just not interested in modeling, as a profession.
Yeah.
But she felt like, I feel really good because like I'm just very, I treat all my models as professionally as possible. So I'm just like, are you comfortable? Like, can I get you coffee or anything to drink, or, are you warm enough, or, okay, can you pose here? And I don't really, I don't touch anybody. I don't do anything like that. So I was just totally like, you're
Hopefully
in
not.
charge, basically, like I appreciate you coming here. And, of course I pay them for modeling for me. Although this girl doesn't, she never wants to be paid. She's like, buy me a drink at the bar or something, like she's just like, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I've given her just like, Uber rides, I just call an Uber for her, and, she goes back to her boyfriend's place or something, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I've made so many paintings with her because she just comes over, and she's kind of that figure that I she's not like a workout fiend, very natural figure. She has a very natural figure, and a certain she doesn't have like a pose that she does. Like a lot of models that do it regularly will have like, these are my poses, and like I always do this pose. And they're cool. Those are, those can be really cool, but like this girl doesn't pose for anybody else, and she doesn't have like, she just rolls around, and then I just snap a lot of pictures, and so like this is one of like, I think
that's funny.
Like not shown in the actual picture reference is probably a shot of whiskey off to the side. We just like, I'm like, can I get you something to drink? She's like, do you have any bourbon? I'm like, I got bourbon. And so, yeah, she just, drinks bourbons. And so I started like later, just like, and she talks the whole time, like it's a therapy session, basically, for most of my models. They just talk to me, and I just listen and snap away, so I started, but I started wanting to do things where these fantasy looking creatures that I'm turning them into are drinking, which is like a very human thing to do, right? Everybody drinks, something, like juice, or it doesn't have to be alcohol, but like, because it's like I'm putting them in a fantasy kind of format, I end up going, oh, what would they be drinking? Like maybe they got some kind of weird, like fairy juice, or something from the fantasy world. Like maybe it's alcoholic, maybe it's psychedelic, who knows? Maybe it's just healthy, or it gives them eternal life or whatever. I don't know. It's fantasy. So I started doing that with like, I want to give them weird cups that they're drinking out of, or like maybe it's a plant, they're just drinking things right off of a vine or something. So so that's kind of where, and then this is the car in the background is what is it, Jesus, they just made a movie out of it. It's the Ford GT40. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's so this club I belong to has like cars like that, and so I've taken so many pictures of sports cars at this club, and every now and then I get somebody to model in front of them, and this wasn't one of those times, but like I just combine those two things. And
It's interesting. Can you talk a little bit about the just like the color palette that you use for her body? I really like the greens with that like kind of pink foot popping out.
oh yeah,
But like I really also enjoy like the like even though like her body's like all in shades of green, the cool shadow under the elbow, and the skin all of a sudden looks, you almost forget that it's green. Like
yeah.
it turns into just like this warm version of green. But I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about just like color palette stuff. Like, I mean,
Sure. Yeah, because what I'm trying to get away from people going, hey, why do you always paint like Caucasians all the time or whatever, so I'm like, oh, I'll just turn people in different colors, and then they won't, then it's just a figure that I can play around with. But I don't want to just like if you look at a comic book, and they go, oh, here's the Hulk, he's green, and he's always the same green no matter what throughout the comic book. And it is a comic book, they have to simplify it quite a bit.
yeah.
But when you look at actual skin, like nobody's like the palms of your hands are usually a slightly different color or temperature than the rest of your skin that's like around your forearm or on the other side of your hand. And your lips are always a little darker than your skin around on your face. And it's like I try to be aware of I've done enough painting from life where I've observed all these different things about the human body, that I try to bring that and think about it when I'm changing the colors,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, she has green skin, but maybe it gets a little warmer towards where her joints are, or or where her feet or her hands are, and maybe like, so I'll do that, and then I try to think of temperature, and I'm like, oh, I want it to seem warm up here. And so I like, in order to do that, I put different colors. I create a warm harmony of greens, so it'll be greens that are leaning more towards like a yellow green, or will be warmer compared to a cooler green, like, which is a blue green. And so like blue green's gonna make the yellow green seem warm. And so I start playing around with that. And so, and then you realize you can put some really crazy colors in the shadows. Like as it gets darker, you can put purples in there, and you can put more blue greenish things, and actual blues, or it just like it ends up creating a really interesting harmony, and you just get to play with color, and it's great to do that, or it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Thanks.
Well, is there sketches for that one, or?
Oh yeah. I did a bunch of sketches of that. Yeah, that one evolved because I was
wow, this is cool. I like this.
I had the pose, and then I knew I wanted to use a lot of yellow, because I usually find yellow is so overpowering, like as a color. Like if you use too much of it or use it in the wrong place, it will destroy everything. So I wanted to really embrace that, and so I'm like, she's going to be sitting on a lot of yellow, and then I wanted to try to keep her from being too jaundiced, so I was like, I want to keep her warm, and I just kept going back and forth with the gouache, and this one I struggled with to, like try to pull it together. I was trying to keep them loose and sketchy, but I was trying. I ended up really just pushing it, and I like the cool under her forearm there, and I was trying to like really play around with the colors and keep it sketchy, but it was still fragmenting to me. So I'm like, I got to do something to pull it together. So I flooded it with one of my big fat brushes. I sprayed it with water first with an atomizer. Like usually I'll use a like a eyeglass cleaner atomizer. They spray fine mist, and I flooded the surface with water, and then I got my big fat brush, flat, is it size 20, is it, or something like that? Yeah, I can't read it anymore. Anyway, it was 18, I think. Anyway, it was it's like big fat brush. Flooded it with water and washed it down with like a warmer color, and then I pull those colors back up into it again. And
So cool. So this is the first phase here.
Yeah. So because with gouache, if you I use my thin watercolor brush to kind of draw over the pencil lines and lay that in first with a darker color. And as that happens, after it dries, it'll stay there. If you wash over it, there'll still be some residual image, no matter how much water you put on it. You can try to scrub it out, but it'll stay there. It's so permanent, and
it's so cool seeing the phases like this.
Yeah. So there I flooded it. Then I'm building it back up, and I'm dropping in a sign. I'm playing with the signs on the thing, and then I'm playing with patterns again. My preferred patterns are, I don't think that's the finish though. Is
there another one?
Yeah, this should be probably the last one.
No, that's it.
Oh, I thought, that doesn't look like the finished one. There it is. Yeah,
there it is. Okay,
there it is. Yeah. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you just create more depth. After I flooded it, and
I love the patterns in this too, and like it's really cool to be able to see all the phases. And one of the things I like about this too, it just makes me want to like get out paints. It just love. Like it's just so freaking awesome seeing actual paint with texture. Because I mostly am doing so much digital work all the time. So like just to be able to see this, like this is awesome. Like when I get this kind of result, even with digital work, I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Oh yeah.
But like the actual real thing, like this is
but this was what informs your digital, right?
Exactly.
Because you know what you're looking for and what to expect out of physical.
Like I love all this texture in here.
Yeah, so that's my favorite thing, is to blow them up. Like when I did comic books,
like I love that.
I loved inks that were blown up, because you could see how the ink was like fragmented because it was over Bristol, that was. But this is my favorite part about painting. Is finding the textures, finding all those color harmonies, and I tend to paint, when it comes to color, I tend to paint like with warm and cool in mind, and
you always push the color, man, and that's one of my favorite things about even like back in the good old days when we would go to the caricature conventions, like whenever they did the color award, every year that Fred's there, he wins it.
Oh yeah. It was I just like paint. For me, color,
cool too.
I like, if I see painting with a good color in it, like it's like that makes my mouth water. Like I don't know. It's like I'm like, no, I don't have an interest to lick it or anything, but
Yeah.
it does make, I physically will have my mouth watering when I see really wonderful color.
Oh yeah. Have you ever checked out Nicholas Uribe on Instagram?
I know that name. Yeah, I probably have.
I gotta have him. I gotta have him do one of these too. But he's one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram because the guy every single day he posts a new painting, and he's always experimenting with limited palettes or let's see what I can do with this one color or two colors or whatever. And,
right. Yeah.
And then he also doesn't use medium. He does oil, but he doesn't use any medium, and so he can't really thin the paint out. And so it's like what he does it on purpose because he's got to figure out the best way to get to the certain point that he wants, but he can't like do a thin thing really. And and it's an interesting approach because it forces you to think differently while you paint,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So this is pretty awesome. Like, I mean, I didn't know that you were doing drawings of me, but I really
right. I mean, you don't hold still enough, but but yeah, I occasionally will, you're still moving in, so you haven't found all the holes that I can like look through to see, but yeah, this is for Muscle and Fitness magazine a million years ago. I used to do a lot more for muscular development. Like I was in there every month for during most of the 90s or the last half of the 90s.
Yeah, I remember seeing those.
And and I was like, wow, I used to do comic books, so I had a lot of figure drawing as a result. And so when I went into illustration and started like, oh, I can just channel Simon Bisley and Bill Sienkiewicz and all those guys and bring it to illustration. And everybody at the muscle magazines loved how I
well, like figure, even just these sketches were cool, I think.
It's just fun.
Those are publishable. Like you could use that in an article,
right.
I like the guy letter B where I mean his mouth is just like Arnold to me. Put the cookie down, put it down.
As long as everybody can use make a reference to Arnold in any muscle magazine, you win.
So this is fine. I love like again, like this is the kind of thing that when I see this I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I love the paint work. These muscles are just ridiculous, but like the hands, I like how the hands are like these little pink, almost like feels like infant hands or something.
So it's to make the muscles, it's the same principle as caricature, like if you make one thing small, it'll make this other thing look big. So if I give them tiny hands, it makes the the arms look even bigger. So like that was what I was going for. And
that's pretty funny.
So it's fun to this is where they were spot illustrations, so I could just have fun, just blasting it away with, they were tiny.
It's just ridiculous looking.
Because the tendency of most people is to stretch the body when you're trying to make big muscles, and you're like, no, it's like the skeleton's the same, so it's like the skeleton is the same size, it's just the muscles are bigger, so what happens in like a lot of comics is like they end up stretching the torso,
they get
and stuff like that,
really long legs and everything.
So I try to be aware of that when I'm doing these things. And
that's funny. So here's another one.
Oh yeah, that was another struggling one. I couldn't find all the versions of it. Like the latest version, that was actually inking on watercolor moleskin paper. So and I ended up doing like washes on it, and then I tried oxgall liquid with gouache, and it had a really interesting effect. It was like I wanted to do more with it. I just I put it away for a minute, and then I forgot where I put it. Basically, I'm like I imagine I'll uncover the oxgall liquid again at some point while I'm moving. But yeah, this I just like the pose, but I didn't really have I didn't know what I wanted out of the background, and I ended up turning this into an oil painting that I did another version of it, and yeah, that was the more finished first wash. What was I think that's gouache. I used like a gray wash, a gray gouache, and
A gouache wash.
yeah, gouache wash, and doing my line work and stuff, and yeah,
That's cool.
thanks.
And then this one, I like the final one.
Yeah.
This one's really cool. It's funny, like the mushrooms they're definitely a little phallic.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah, it's just really funny, like, because you could put them in there, and it's like, no, those are mushrooms, and then everybody is
For
like,
some reason, I'm hungry for pasta. I don't know.
right. Yes, you can leave them in there, and people are fine with it. But then, that's all they'll see, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so yeah, these are my version of fairies, where I was like, I didn't want to bother with like any extra muscles on the back to go, oh, these are how the wings work. I just look at the fairies as like, my approach was that the wings are mystical, and they are just there, and they work. They don't.
Well, it also gives the illusion that they're maybe moving so fast that you can't. They're almost, like when
Right,
when you go like this,
like a hummingbird.
When I go like this, I can see through my hand. I can see past it.
Yeah.
When I slow down, it starts.
So they're in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's almost like the way that it feels. It's got like that, like you caught it in the moment where it's moving.
Yeah. I like the movement it gives when I was playing around with them. Yeah, I was experimenting with a lot of, like, I probably did about 20 or so more resolved fairies like this, and then they didn't go over so well in France. I went to the Angoulême, the comic book festival, and I was like, oh man, I got fairies. Everybody knows what fairies are, and like, I was trying to come up with, like, I don't know what they're into, in Europe as far as fantasy goes. So I figured, oh, I can get away with fairies, and no, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I did. I think I sold like one, but they didn't have the Euro. Oh, and then that's the more finished version that I cut up because somebody wanted to make like stickers, and I just thought it'd be funny to have stickers of that like all over the city, and yeah, so that's.
So this is cool though, because this is like a combination of gouache and then digital, right?
Yeah, just
Feels
only
like a little bit
only on the edges, like you can see the gouache marks in the wings and on her back, and I cut it out, and then I was like, oh, I kind of wanted a unified edge to everything, so if it was a sticker, it would separate enough from everything around it.
Yeah.
So I figured that orange
It's pretty
glow.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So once I cut it out and made it a silhouette, I just I hit it again with like an airbrush around all the edges, and it was solely created to be a sticker. And so yeah,
That's awesome. I love that little bit of red there in the face too. That's really cool in the front.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy about digital too. You can do little subtle things that you have to really work at to paint. If you're using gouache or oil paints, like some things are easier with oil and gouache, and digital, it's like it can be harder, or it can be really a simple little thing that you do that looks really awesome. So
No, it's cool, man. It's and there's something cool, I think, too, about, like, one of the things about digital painting that, it's, for me, it's been a challenge, but I finally feel pretty good about it, have been years of developing, trying to get the texture of a traditional, and I've come up with different ways using noise and different things, and people are like, well, why in the world are you spending so much time trying to just use the real thing? It's like, well, because the real thing takes way longer. I don't have a scanner, and I don't feel like color correcting and doing all these other things. And so I want to figure out how to do it digitally, because it makes sense for me economically and everything else. But there is something really cool about that combination of digital mixed with the traditional. Like, there's something really, really neat about that. It's cool.
No, and having painted enough, you just like, I know I want this texture, I want this look, and I think what a lot of people miss going to digital is why did you paint like you did before in the first place? I like painting my paintings like this with raw color and blah, I like this texture, I like this, and I use the texture in this manner. And like a lot of people that paint digitally will be like, I'm just going to make this texture because I can make that texture, not because like I used it right here in this spot to really enhance that image, because it's like, because sometimes like, I didn't like things I didn't like about painting on canvas was that sometimes that canvas texture was everywhere and it flattened the image to me, because I'm like, oh, so if I paint thick, then I can cover that canvas look, and then I'm like, then it has more volume to me, whereas I felt that the texture of the canvas would detract from the illusion I was trying to go for, and so it's something to be aware of when you're actually making it.
I think that's a really important thing that you brought up, because that's one thing that I try to go with when I'm doing digital painting, is that even though it's digital painting, to keep those things in mind, where there should be some kind of a depth, or it's like really the illusion of the depth, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of texture here and there. And like, I've got this one brush I like to use that Kyle Webster made, and I think it's called the monk brush set, something like that. And I like it because it's got like this canvasy texture to it. When you paint hard, when you push a little bit harder, it almost has a smooth texture. But if you lighten up with your brush stroke, it almost goes transparent and it adds like a texture. And so when you paint with it, like I'm blocking in an album cover right now, and it's looking like a full-on oil painting, and it's just
cool,
just because of that brush. And I'm not,
you can build it up.
And I'm also not smoothing anything out. Every single thing I'm doing is brush mark, brush mark, brush mark, brush mark, brush. So it's like a sculpting it, and I love it because his brush really allows for that to have that feeling. And I think if you know enough about traditional painting, you can do that. Like someone else that knows nothing about oil painting probably wouldn't use that brush in that way.
Right.
But that's what's cool about that brush, is it allows you there's a lot of, and then you can mess with the opacity and all these different things. So but so we're going to look at some of your digital stuff that you've been working on lately. And you've been doing this comic series, which is awesome.
Yes, awesome.
I love, this is great. Is this the most recent cover?
This one's out right now. The new one comes out in a couple days, next week, I think. And like you're talking about with the texture, like leaving a little bit of your canvas texture showing through when in a painting, that's how I use patterns in things like this. Like the background here has the brick pattern, and that fills that space. and
Yeah.
it doesn't, it doesn't detract it, but it adds depth because of less contrast. It's more muted color, and then the real color happens on the figure in the foreground.
I love too
up.
how you got like, because like I like how this is like a subtle thing, but like like the brick wall down here.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if you did all these on a different layer.
Yeah,
Or-
there's a couple of different layers.
But
Yeah.
like, is this the color of these lines? Are they the same
Oh, yeah.
color?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's interesting because as it goes up, it looks like that the line
It's
work
changing,
got darker, but it's all the same meat. It's all the same.
That's
It's
what I
just
love
that
about color. Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is cool. I love like looking at it up close. You can see, and you do this on an iPad, right?
Yeah, it's all iPad. I hadn't planned to color this one. This is just I took this out of one of the interior. Yeah, it's a night scene. He just broke his wrist, and he fell out in the street. He just slipped off a curb.
He just barely missed the condom there.
Yeah, yeah. Used, of course. Yeah, so he's a comedian. He's in this particular issue, he is recovering. Well, he's an asshole basically, and in the previous issue he had just been found out he was faking cancer, and so he was really milking it for all it was worth. He didn't really have cancer. He thought he might. He had a test that was weird, but everything else, all the follow-ups were all negative. He didn't have cancer, but he let everybody believe that he did. And then as a result, he got all this sympathy, sympathy jobs. Suddenly he's playing all the big comedy places, and he got a huge book deal and all this stuff. And he's just taking it in, knowing he doesn't really have cancer. And then he gets found out at the end of the last issue. And now he's trying to rebuild, and this is like the second time in the series that he's gotten canceled. So he's like rebuilding his career. He's playing all the dive bars now that
he's
have
a regular
comedy.
old Kramer.
Yeah. So he's fortunately, he's like it's interesting because we wrote the story. I worked on the story 2 years ago. I finished everything. It was this story has been in the can for a long time, and the writer wrote it. At that point, it was before the Chappelle stuff and everything, and it was after Louis, of course. But we had it like it's still relevant now. It's still like this was coming out just as the Chappelle stuff hit, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, Dave Chappelle, and they're all trying to cancel him. And like these 5 issues explore cancel culture, where it's like, oh, he got canceled, and then this person got canceled, but they're not really canceled. It's like they come back as they come back as something else, and they're still there. They're still doing their thing. They're this guy's still in comedy, and he's basically how it winds up, he still ends up doing comedy, and so
awesome.
the other ones I sent you were from this issue.
When we're done with this, you gotta let people know where they can get them, because I want to get a couple copies of these too. But the last podcast with we were talking about the one cover that came out with the cow on it.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the first one.
So these
are my thumbnails. Like, this is how I work out the underdrawing, and then
is this digital too? Like,
yeah.
So that's like
I'll use the pencil, the 6B pencil on the iPad. It came with it.
It's cool because I mean it looks pretty legit. Like,
Yeah, no, it's really lovely. It's just, it's simple. It's all you need, for a pencil drawing,
Yeah.
and I mean, it doesn't feel like pencil when you're doing it because it's, you're on plastic, but
Yeah.
the results look like pencil. So I kind of like that. And then, so this was one of my favorite sequences,
Yeah, I'm
these
gonna
two
look for that
pages.
one. So
Yeah.
here's the one of that one image.
Yeah. So I embellish as I go, so I drop in these things in the background. So he's on stage bombing because everybody hates him now because he's like the guy that faked that he had cancer, and everybody. So he coughs, and then somebody goes, "Is that now? Do you have fake lung cancer?" And so everybody starts laughing at him, and then I'm putting in like, yeah, choking Vic. Like every dive bar I've ever been in has the are you is somebody choking sign. So I put that in the background. So I put him on the on this sign. And yeah, so it's kind of I'm throwing in extra jokes
Yeah.
throughout the whole. I do this throughout every book basically. If wherever I can, I throw in extra stuff. And then
I love the ink work too. The ink work is really nice.
yeah, it was so seductive using the spatter because like I used it a lot when I was working for Marvel and DC. I spattered a lot with a toothbrush, but it was so messy and it was very labor intensive because you'd have to mask stuff out or figure out how to like cut it out and paste it in so that you could get a cleaner background. And the nice thing about digital, you just clean it right out. You work on you take your spatter brush, go to a clean layer over top of that, spatter on it, and then you can erase the stuff you don't want.
Yeah.
And it's like boom, you're done. It's and my hands are still clean. Like I
Yeah.
used to walk around with like 3 black fingers, like almost all, and I'd spatter all. I could never get all the ink off my hands when I worked for Marvel. So and
It's cool because I mean the ink job like looks legit, like real ink. I mean, I really enjoy seeing your transition from traditional to, because even like if anyone knows your work, you do a lot of caricature stuff for the Week, and for years you've been doing gouache. For those, you've done a couple in oil, but I remember last time I visited you, you were doing one of the Week covers with the iPad,
yeah,
and it looked exactly the same. Like you're because a lot of people I've seen, they struggle when they go from traditional to digital, and
yeah.
they're not
Suddenly they
sure
have an
how.
airbrush to play with. Yeah,
It's like, yeah, like it's like, but it's cool to see that your work it looks just like that's Fred's work. Like it doesn't change
right,
really.
right. Yeah. Like at least with digital, you also develop your eye. Like you have to have this is how I view how I'm going to set up a scene. That's like a structural thing that will carry through no matter what medium you're working in. So it's nice to have that. Be aware of why you do what you do,
Yeah.
or how you want to tell a story. And so when I do a comic book, I'm like, oh, I want this shot, and I want,
Yeah. When,
and the background in this one, lower right panel,
Mhm.
in the background, I'm like, oh, it's a menu for the comics coming up for the rest of the week, so I put in all these little Easter eggs in stuff in the backgrounds wherever I can, and this foreshadows a sequence later on in the issue. I have in the finish thing, I put in like my in jokes and everything. I think I sent you the black and white version of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, let me check
uh,
it real quick. There we go.
Yeah. So if you zoom in, you see like
Mark
later
Norman.
on. yeah, so
Where's Jason Seiler? You put Jason
I know
Seiler in there?
I see you weren't doing them yet by the time when I was doing this. So later in the issue, one of the other
That's awesome.
characters he's talking to goes, oh yeah, well, he complains that Jay Moore has a bigger career than he does, and the other character goes, Jay Moore, I never heard of him, and he's like, exactly my point. So this is my joke on here. Jay Moore's headlining, and he's at the bottom. It's like, and so he's like doing bringer shows at this point, but this guy is paying him to come in because he knows he'll pack the joint because everybody hates him. So they're showing up to hate him, so they're like, oh, we're going to like throw shit at you. And he gets like he gets food thrown at him every time he goes on stage, basically, so, and then in the crowd scene, I put a cow in there. I don't, I hide things in the crowd scenes, whatever, they're perfect because nobody's really paying attention to crowd scenes, so, and then I have a buddy that's to the left of him in that
Right
crowd scene. Yeah. He's my opera buddy. Like he sings opera, and I drink with him regularly at my local bar, and I put him in like a lot of the backgrounds just for no reason.
That's funny.
And so there's like a lot of little things going on throughout all these issues, and this is and we were always making up a new comedy club, Buster's comedy, that's the most normal one that we have, but the next issue coming up, I think it's Titter's Tea Room or something, and it's that's the comedy club, and
it's called the comedy club The Lion's Den, and all these men will show up thinking it's a strip club, but it's actually a comedy club.
Yes. Exactly. Like they're not going to expect this, so so in this issue's this is later on in the issue.
I have a question about I have a question about like perspective and stuff, because like that's always tricky for me. Like when I have to do like an illustration, there's going to be like try to come up with an interesting perspective, or like these angles and these views. Now, how do you come up with? Is this stuff that you're making up, or are you using photo references, or are you
mostly? I'm making it up. Like these, like this apartment doesn't exist in reality, so I just know the elements that I wanted in it, and then I made my own little schematic on the side, so I knew where the sink is, where the door is, where the windows are, and where his bathroom is. And it's a 1-bedroom apartment, and some of the scenes throughout the issues take place here, so I wanted to make sure I had it all figured out. And like for individual parts, like the chair in the background, I took pictures of the folding chair, and some of the other elements, I take pictures of all that stuff, and I'll refine it. And the nice thing about this is, like, he's getting drunk. I want to show he's kind of losing it, so I'm using the warped perspective, and everything here. What makes this look more hand drawn is I usually everything I did was I didn't use like a straight edge. Like I didn't.
That's great.
The only straight edge is the panel borders, and everything else is hand drawn, and the patterns I'd make a pattern hand drawn, and then
that makes, I mean,
and then I strip it in. But
it's like when you look at a painting and you can tell when there's all these soft edges, but all of a sudden there's one spot that's just a sharp edge, and it just distracts. Like it would be distracting if all this was like perfect angles. It would it would stick out and it wouldn't make sense. I love all these patterns in here too, like the floor pattern, everything. It's just really like it's really
it helps you with this, make it plain.
And the contrast is really nice. There's a lot of nice contrast.
Oh yeah, it's fun, and it's just really, that's what I always liked about comic books, is you really get to explore like different lighting situations or different environments, and you're like, oh, how can I depict that? What's the best way to show this action, and for a story. Do I want the camera to follow him, or do I want a overhead shot, or do I want, maybe, like, if I really was exploring stuff, I would have a shot from inside the medicine cabinet, looking past all his hemorrhoid cream in there. Like, it's that's like the end joke. It's like every shelf is full of hemorrhoid creams, or something. And that's why on the top it says more hemorrhoid cream. So
I really like too. I love the perspective here of this door, the mirror being open and it's just coming at you like really big. It's a really cool way of bringing everyone's eye into the cabinet.
Yeah, it's just more dramatic, and and because because it's a door, you can make it a little slightly askew, and it creates extra planes into that panel. That's like one of my favorite panels of the whole book. After this, he passes out and goes into a crazy hallucination sequence, where he walks up his entire body, and it's just like a bunch of crazy stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
But
you have a couple copies there, right?
Oh yeah. Got my, this is the Snelson of the one that's out now. And
Comedy is Dying.
Back covers that, and then this is the one that's coming out next week.
Oh, that's a cool cover, man.
Yeah, it's just a comedian, doing his thing. So he's, and it's funny because, like, I got to the fun part was going to all the comedy clubs and going, well, I can write off this drink because I'm doing research,
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
So I see as much comedy as possible. So that's why it's always fun to watch. I'm like, I can't wait to see how your comedy career starts. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to start going on the road. I'm gonna have to start traveling.
Well, I've been having so much. I'm doing a set tonight. I did a set. Oh man, the other night I went to this new place called Mojo's, and it was so awesome, dude. It's the closest thing I've ever been to feeling like a New York comedy club. It was a speakeasy underground with a tin ceiling, but the ceiling was like maybe not even 7 feet.
Yeah.
And it was like this small intimate room, and it was packed. It was really packed, and there was like this energy. And when I got called, they're like, Jason Seiler. Everyone was like, yeah. And I was like, oh right, like people are excited. Yeah. And I got up there and I did my thumbsucker bit because I'm still trying to like tighten this bit up.
No, that's a good one though.
I've got like 2 shows coming up, and so I've got only a couple weeks to like nail down, because that's going to be my closer.
That's a good bit. One.
Yeah. So I'll be doing 10-minute sets pretty soon for this show. But so anyways, that place was really cool. I'm going to a different place tonight, but the thing that I'm working on is that Kevin Nealon, he calls me, not like a ton, but he's been in touch with me about comedy, and he called me again recently, and he wants to bring me with him and do some shows with him.
Nice.
Which could be huge for me. But he says I have to have like 15 minutes clean.
Right.
And that's very difficult for me because my mind is dark, and naturally what I think is funny. Like I just started working on this new, I'm trying to keep in mind clean. Like even this thumbsucker thing, I think it's clean, but I do talk about Star Wars, little people Star Wars porn, but I don't like describe anything gross.
Right. I always feel like that's clean, like,
but I don't know, to Kevin, is that clean to Kevin,
Yeah.
But then
but I mean, if you're as clean as he is, then, you know, like, I think there's the nice contrast. There's like, you're clean technically. You're like,
Yeah.
you're not being dirty, but you are mentioning dirty things.
I'm making
you know,
you think about it, like
yeah.
visualize.
Yeah,
But
which
like,
I think is even, that's what made that joke more powerful, you know, is
Yeah.
because you didn't go with the direct words, you know.
yeah, yeah,
you were
I
like,
was doing
you
that
know,
on
yeah,
purpose. Like,
that was
um,
wonderful. Yeah.
and then thank you, man. And but he was like, yeah, he's like, my crowds are kind of like G rated, and it would be weird if you came out there and just like destroyed or not destroyed, but like if you went out there and like just said like all this stuff, and then all of a
Anything
sudden,
heinous, yes.
yeah, and then all of a sudden Kevin comes up and he's like, welcome to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, pretend you're, I guess you could like pretend that you're like, I'm going to perform this for my for Sienna,
for my
or,
parents,
you know, yeah, or your, well, yeah, well, or your parents, you know, like,
well, I got
like,
this, like I just started working on this new bit, and again, I'm trying to keep clean in mind, but
do a lot of stuff about soap, I'd
Yeah.
say, you know.
Well, like I started off, so this is the way that my mind worked with this new thing is, one day I was sitting there, this just the other day I was sitting there, I was going, there are many ways to skin a cat. I'm just thinking about that saying, like, where did that come from? Like, and then I was thinking, but it's not even true. There are not many ways. There's probably only 2 ways to skin a cat. And so
Yes.
so I actually Googled how to skin a cat, and I started looking into it and everything. Then I came up with a
Well,
whole.
there's a lot of search results for skinning a cat.
Yeah, there's more search results for how to. But
Yeah.
then I was thinking, like, so I came up with this whole idea where, like, I was out. Basically, the idea is like I was on the road with my friend, and I got a flat tire, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and I've never changed a flat tire before. I don't know how to do this, and so I actually lifted the car before I undid the bolts, and my friend was like, "Hey, I think you probably should have undone the bolts before you lifted the car. What do you think there, buddy?" You know, like, and it's like, "Oh yeah, I know. Like, there's many ways to skin a cat." And then the idea is, my friend's like,
Right.
no, there ain't.
No,
There's only 2. And then he describes in detail, like his preference of how, and then basically, but the joke just turns it from that into a really dark thing, because my response to him is like, dude,
have you done this?
but that's what I want to make them feel when I go, dude. But then I go, everyone knows that it's best to start from the sternum and make your way down.
Yeah, right.
Like,
see, yeah.
And then basically the joke's gonna end with him going, well, there's many roads to Rome, or something like that, or all roads lead to Rome.
Yeah.
And then he pounds on the back of the trunk and he says, be quiet, and you be quiet in there.
Very good.
Basically, it's gonna start off with an innocent changing tire and end up with it's a serial killer bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a clean,
as it often does.
But that's clean, right? I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
Like, basically, I'm gonna do like a, you be quiet in there.
Yeah. Yeah, pipe down.
That was a joke about me and my friend kidnapping children or whatever.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's
But I think it's funny.
Okay. Children might fall, people are more accepting of an adult being abducted than a child. So yeah.
Well, I'm not going to say who's in the trunk.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to leave it at, you be quiet in there.
Yes.
Let people
very good.
No, but it's fun, man. I'm having a blast. But one of these days it'd be funny if you like snuck me into, put me on a poster next to Mark Norman. I'll be so happy.
Oh, I'll do that. Yeah. Because I mean, right now I'm doing a space science fiction comic book. So I haven't, we haven't come across any comedy clubs in space yet. So we're, all right. Yeah. I mean, I should sneak stuff like that in anyway, because but yeah, it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to design an alien from scratch based on a bird, so it's like, they're like, because
That's
the
awesome.
main character falls in love with this bird alien, And so that means I'm like, okay,
So
I
this
have
is the
to.
same character?
No, it's another.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
gonna say
entirely
this is
different,
this
different
is a.
writer, different. Yeah,
I was gonna say,
and
wow, this is
yeah,
like.
it's quite a plot twist.
Maybe this is after he took all the pills
Yeah,
and
he's
vodka.
really been canceled. Now he is really
Yeah.
he's dating alien bird people. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, he's
This took a twist.
yeah,
He went from Brooklyn to
right.
one of the moons on Jupiter
Yeah,
real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. That's pretty. Yeah, that's where it's
Don't mix
going next.
Quaaludes with vodka, folks.
Oh my gosh. So, no, that character though, the Snelson character is so like it inspired Molly, and I went on a terror one night thinking about like some character. Basically, what was his name? He was he was based on being he was like an ex like soldier of fortune type guy. You know, he goes to Iraq or someplace like that and just murders like 90 children, and then but he comes back and he gets off because Trump's in office, you know, so Trump pardons him and says he's a patriot, and so now he's out of jail.
So he's a lovable character from the get-go.
But he's found Jesus, and so now he's like
I like how you said Jesus.
Jesus, he's really and so he goes out and he wants to be a comedian now, but he just tells these horrible stories about murdering children, and then starts laughing and giggling about it. You know, isn't that funny? And
I think I saw this movie. It was called The Joker.
What? Oh, he gets kicked out of the army, and this is what gets him in jail. How he's in a bar that's actually in Iraq, and it's called Baghdadi's. Baghdadi's. It's in the green zone. And I don't know, she remembers, she's coming up with this idea. Like it's this insane idea where he's drunk and high and carrying on, and jumps off of a balcony naked and lands on a general and rides him around, balls on his face, just riding him around and screaming obscenities and whatnot. And he finally, that's the last straw. He gets thrown in jail, and so Trump pardons this guy, obviously.
I really like this guy. This guy is fantastic.
Very
okay,
nice.
very
Lovely
good person. Very good people.
Yeah. I would trust him with
Fantastic.
my young children, even. Yeah. So
I like how he kills all the children.
Yes, yeah, because I don't like children either. They get in the way. So that's. But yeah, we had this whole story, and I pitched it to my writer, the writer of Snelson. I go, "Oh, what do you think of this idea for a story?" He's like, "Sounds like you're already done with it." And I'm like, "We kind of are." You know, it was fun. We had so much fun. We just giggled through how horrible this guy is the whole time. That
would be that. Ironically, it'd be funny to do a story like that where it's just like it's just like while the person's reading, they're like, wow, this guy is the worst guy in the world, but like they keep reading because you just like you want to know like how terrible is it going to get.
Right. Yeah. That's it.
Anyways,
sorry. Yes,
we're gonna wrap this up.
Good idea. All right.
So I wanted to say thanks just for helping out with this, doing this first one. And it was awesome, like being able to see the work and hear you talk about it. I love, it's so cool seeing like all those textures like up close. Like that's my favorite thing. Like I love it so much. It's one of my favorite, like Jenny Saville is one of my favorite artists. And,
I saw her show when she had a thing in New York. It blew me away. Yeah.
When you like those, I haven't seen a painting of hers in person, but like I have the books. And that's one of the things, like when you see the close-ups, you're just like, oh, it's man, it just,
because they're huge.
Yeah.
The ones I saw, they were huge. It was like
massive paintings.
I want to say it was 12 or 13 years ago. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was in a little gallery, not that little, but big enough to show her paintings.
Yeah.
And in Soho. And I just stumbled by it. I was just walking by and I'm like, hey, the garage door is open. You know, it was like in a big garage. And I walked in, I'm like, holy shit, you know, and I just like, I was just like, my mouth was watering. The colors were lovely. They were simple. They weren't that complex, but like the textures and the paint was just like, was like,
but
so
that's what I love. That's what's cool, like to see your stuff like that, because it reminds me, that's like, you know, that's my favorite thing. Like there's certain paintings that I've done where, you know, like it's like, that's the thing. I like, people probably don't even care. Most people don't, but like, there'll be one thing on a painting. I'm like, I like this painting because of that little corner,
right?
Like that little thing that it's just that texture there.
That's
like,
enough. It works. Yeah.
It's awesome. But can you let people know really quick where they can find the comic books and stuff?
Yes, Snelson is this is Ahoy Comics. I don't know if it comes in clearly.
Ahoy Comics.
Yeah, okay. And you have to ask for Snelson. Comedy is Dying at your local comic book shop and have them order. Like
awesome.
100 copies or so.
Yeah.
And I think there's some online places that will send them that have some kind of like storage. And I'm going to be at MoCA next May or April with the Society of Illustrators. They have a MoCA Fest, like comic convention for small press and everything. And I'm going to be bringing Snelson there. And so, yeah,
that's awesome.
So there's that. And I think that's it. That's the, and Wrong Earth is another comic coming out in May. It's called Purple. You know, it's a dragonfly man. And the story title is Purple. It's the main heading is Wrong Earth, and it follows the character Dragon Man. And I knew I could get that out eventually. I was, it's like I always you don't realize how complicated the comics are. You know, you're like, well, what's the name of the story? What's the name of the character?
There's like 10 titles.
Who's the company putting it out? You know, because like there's a million little companies now, and Ahoy is one of them. And they're a small group of people that used to be at Vertigo Comics at DC. You know, like that's primarily the group. And I used to do Animal Man at Vertigo Comics, and that was like my in with that group of people. And now that they're back together, doing their own comics at their own company, they're like, hey, let's do these cool stories. And so that's what we get to do.
Sweet.
Oh, we have neighbors. I should probably sign out. I think we got people.
All right.
So
well, I just want to say, everybody, thank you so much. And remember to
thank you. Nice to meet everybody.
Spread the word. Everyone spread the word about the Patreon, because we're only going to be able to see this content here. So thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Right on, man. Take care.